Imagine this, it's 1778 and the American Revolution has reached a new chapter on the high seas. The rebels aren't just fighting on land anymore, they're now taking the fight to Britain's biggest pride, its navy. And leading this bold new charge is none other than John Paul Jones, a man who's about to pull off one of the most daring feats of naval warfare in the Revolution. By 1778, the Americans had fought grueling battles on land, defying all odds to stand up to British forces. But while the British may have had their hands full in the colonies, their mighty Royal Navy was still the reigning force on the world's oceans. For a fledgling nation with only a handful of ships, challenging the British on the sea was practically like a minnow fighting a shark. But that wasn't going to stop John Paul Jones, a fierce Scotsman who'd thrown his lot in with the Americans. Jones was a man of ambition, determination, and, some might say, a bit of a reputation for rebellion. And for him, taking on the British Navy was not just a tactical maneuver, it was personal. He believed that striking at Britain on its home waters would not only demoralize the enemy, but would show the world that America meant business. The vessel he commanded was the USS Ranger, a modest sloop of war with just 18 guns, but Jones was convinced it would be enough. The Ranger set sail from the American coast in 1777, carrying the new Stars and Stripes flag across the Atlantic. Jones's goal was to attack the British Isles themselves, bringing the Revolution straight to British soil. And after a few raids on British merchant ships to send a message, Jones set his sights on a prize that would send shockwaves through Britain, HMS Drake, a 20-gun British warship stationed off the coast of Northern Ireland. The Drake wasn't just any ship, it was a symbol of British power in the Irish Sea, tasked with protecting British waters from foreign incursions. Capturing it would not only be a strategic win, but a massive blow to British morale. So, when John Paul Jones saw the Drake anchored off Carrickfergus, he knew it was his time to make history. On April 24, 1778, Jones maneuvered the Ranger to within sight of the Drake, preparing for battle. News of Jones's arrival had already reached British shores, and the Drake was ready to face him, confident that the Royal Navy could handle this American upstart. The Drake even sent out a small boat to the Ranger, not realizing that the ship it was about to challenge was a warship itself. When the British crew realized they were facing a well-armed American ship, they retreated, but by then, it was too late. Jones wanted to fight, but he wasn't going to rush. He waited for hours, letting the Drake prepare and come out into the open sea. It was a risky move, giving the British the chance to fortify, but Jones wanted to fight on his terms. At around 6 p.m., with the light fading, the two ships closed in on each other, and the gun crews braced for the battle. The two ships exchanged volleys of cannon fire in a brutal, close-range battle that lasted over an hour. The crews could see each other's faces through the smoke and gunfire as the ships circled and fired broadside after broadside. Despite being outgunned, the Ranger held its own, with Jones directing his crew like a man possessed. British Captain Burton was mortally wounded early in the battle, and the loss of leadership on the Drake only made things worse for the British crew. They fought bravely, but the unrelenting fire from the Ranger wore them down. The American gunners were more accurate, hitting the Drake repeatedly and causing massive damage. Finally, after sustaining heavy casualties and with the ship barely afloat, the Drake raised the white flag. The capture of the Drake was an astonishing moment for the Americans. Here was John Paul Jones, a rebel without a major navy to back him up, capturing a British warship on their own turf. The victory didn't just shock the British, it sent ripples across the Atlantic. In America, news of Jones's triumph spread quickly, boosting morale among the revolutionaries, and giving hope that victory was possible even against such overwhelming odds. For Jones, the victory was a vindication of his strategy and his boldness. He became a hero, celebrated not just for his daring but for his skill as a naval commander. The capture of the Drake was more than just a military success. It was a statement that America could, and would, stand up to Britain on all fronts. It showed that American courage and resilience weren't confined to the land battles. And for John Paul Jones, it was the beginning of a legacy that would inspire the future U.S. Navy. As the captured Drake sailed into a French port, trailing the Stars and Stripes, the world saw a new power rising. The Americans had proven that their fight for independence wouldn't be limited by land or sea, and the capture of the Drake became a symbol of their unwavering determination.